today here to discuss on the topic India-UAE Relations, the pandemic era and beyond. I'll be focusing my topic around the pandemic era and what has happened as we are progressing towards a more brighter future, as we are progressing towards the end of pandemic era. So what holds in between the relations between India and UAE? So as you all know that India's relations with the United Arab Emirates have witnessed a significant upswing since 2015 across various areas, be it trade, investments, counterterrorism, security cooperation. The growing ties between the two countries, however, had to go a severe impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. All facets of bilateral relations, including the trade, investment, flow of workers, pilgrims, and above all, the physical high-level political meetings were critically impacted. However, New Delhi kept up the diplomatic channels with the GCC countries open, and with the Prime Minister Narendra Modi holding several telephonic conversations with the Gulf leaders. India and UAE have actively exchanged medical supplies and personnel to help each other fight the pandemic. With the world gradually getting back to normalcy and economic and trade activities regaining their strength, India and UAE relations are attaining the vibrancy of the pre-COVID days. So I will make an attempt to discuss the disruptions caused by COVID-19 pandemic in the Indo-UAE relations, and then the efforts being undertaken to help rejuvenate these bilateral ties. Now, giving a brief background of the study, first of all, the ties between the India subcontinent and West Asia existed since ancient times, rooted in history, culture, civilization, and commerce. The Gulf region has always been a significant player in the international politics because of its vital strategic location and natural resources. We can see the genesis of the strategic economic engagement can be traced back to the aftermath of September 11, 2001, when there was a fundamental shift in the policy of Gulf towards India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi became the first ever Prime Minister to visit United Arab Emirates in 2015. Then the relationship further flourished after the accession of H. Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan, the ruler of Abu Dhabi in 1966, and then subsequently we can see that the UAE Federation was created in 1971. Post 9/11 attacks, there was a fundamental shift in the policy of Gulf, especially when we talk about the Gulf, especially towards of UAE towards India, as the Gulf Cooperation Council adopted the Look East policy. Now, globally, COVID-19 negatively impacted both the flow of people and trade. The World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a global pandemic on March 11, 2020. And we could see by the end of that month, India and UAE had decided to suspend all international flights. Countrywide or limited lockdowns were also imposed simultaneously. Expatriate Indian workers were seriously affected by these measures. Due to the curtailed economic activity, the bilateral trade between India and UAE was seriously affected. If we talk about the total trade between India and the Gulf Cooperation Council countries during April and October 2020, it was $39.98 billion, with a share of GCC in India's foreign policy trade during the period being 12%. During the same period in the previous year, that was 2019 to 2020, the share of the India GCC trade was about 33% of India's total foreign trade. Petroleum products imports, the most important commodity in the bilateral trade, was seriously impacted. But if we look at the brighter side, despite the pandemic and the ensuing adverse effect on the economy, the foreign direct investment from the GCC countries into India witnessed a significant jump. Over the 9 million strong Indian expatriate community in the GCC countries were worst affected. A division of workers also lost their jobs there. We could see that Indian diaspora, which is located in UAE, bring huge remittances. They send huge remittances to India, which was also seriously impacted. Some of the workers were also stranded in the unhygienic labor camps without social distancing. Then in April, over thousands of Indians in the GCC countries tested positive for the virus. It was all tough time for both India and UAE and the relations between both of them. Then we could see that the Indian embassy in UAE was flooded with requests of stranded workers for help on social media platforms. Then the local community welfare centers there mobilized the people for help, and these challenges were confronted. Then we could see that there was a mission, Vande Bharat mission, in which the Indians that were located in UAE and other countries in the Gulf were brought back to India. It was also a question that the remittances that we get from there, from UAE, will be impacted because the Indian workers will be coming there. But then the lives, the human health was the most important on the priority list. The world once again witnessed the true spirit of India's ancient ideology of Vasudev Kutumbakam, or the world is one family. We could see that the India-UAE comprehensive strategic partnership has truly emerged stronger since the start of COVID pandemic. We could see that the constant high-level empathetic exchanges between our leadership have ensured this outcome. India had also made sure that the food supplies to the UAE remained uninterrupted despite the lockdown in India. We also supplied around 2 lakh dozens of Covishield coronavirus vaccine to UAE as a part of India's Vaccine Maitri or Vaccine Friendship Program in February 2021. The pandemic also witnessed an increase in use of technology to maintain high-level political contacts. This period also saw a rise in virtual diplomacy, or you can call as COVID diplomacy, because physical visits were not possible then. Video conferencing, telephonic conversations, along with the exchange of medical and pharmaceutical equipment and personnel has really helped both the countries to strengthen the ties. India-UAE relations had emerged stronger. During the second wave, which we saw in the year 2021, India dispatched a shipment of around 5.5 million HCQ pills to UAE. India also received from UAE 7 metric tons of medical supplies. India had sent in return 88 medical professionals to UAE. Plane loads of medical supplies were sent to UAE from UAE to India as a part of government and private initiatives. The UAE has a strategic advantage as it is a gateway to the Middle East and North Africa, which we call as the MENA region. And as a result, several Indian conglomerates are trying to make a country their base in their lofty expansion plans. There are so many sectors where UAE's interests with India align. Oil and gas are the core ones, but the opportunities are endless in renewable energy, food security, technology, artificial intelligence, innovation, etc. UAE-based charity had launched We Are With You India Drive. In that, the relief campaign aimed to support India, which has shared a major historical ties with UAE. Then we talk about the new possibilities which the two countries hold. First of all, there is immense scope for investment in the healthcare and pharmaceutical industries. India is already a very popular regional dimension for medical tourism. Digital healthcare services are also an area which like to see an immense growth in the near future. Secondly, higher education. It is an area which has always remained unexplored, despite the potential for enhanced cooperation. Given that the Indian institutions of eminence have now begun a green signal, recently a new branch of IIT has been opened in UAE, which is a good thumbs up for the escalation of ties between the two countries in the field of higher education. Then thirdly, there's immense possibilities for the cooperation in the terms of defense manufacturing. India and GCC countries have witnessed an extraordinary growth in bilateral defense relations, where Prime Minister Modi had increased the limit of FDI in defense manufacturing, which was earlier 49%. It had increased to 74% through direct route, which is great. Then finally, the niche areas such as the space exploration can also be explored, wherein we can see that Arab world is a space exploration leader. Going forward, if we can see that for India, now the buzzword is all alignment. India and UAE relationship is a building block for regional peace. India and UAE have always shared a natural partnership. It is also good and building block for regional peace and prosperity, and also a role model for international relations. When we talk about the recent developments which have happened in the year 2022 post pandemic, when we are coming out of the pandemic and the world is coming back to the pre-COVID world order, we can see that India and UAE are celebrating the historical ties, and we can see the starting of the comprehensive economic partnership agreement, which will give further boost to the relationship between the two countries. We are together here where we celebrate the shared values of peace. Both the countries have always believed in the values of peace, tolerance, prosperity, as these are the building blocks of friendship. India and UAE have also come up with a joint vision document, which was unveiled during the Virtual Leaders Virtual Summit in February this year, 2022, aptly titled the joint document which the leaders of the two countries unveiled had the title New Frontiers, New Milestones. So this document charts the pathway towards a very shared future between the two countries. While it also seeks to build on the past achievements, whatever we have gained in the past relationship between the two countries, it also lays down new avenues of cooperation such as fintech, clean energy, climate action, sustainability, food security, digital payments, cyber security, cryptocurrencies, and advanced technologies, among others. Another historical announcement which marked, like I told you before, was that the establishment of Indian Institute of Technology in Abu Dhabi, wherein it became a new hub of high-level education. Then we talk about the second major development which has happened over this year from the beginning of 2022 was the second development was the UAE India Investment Forum, which took place in March this year. It represents a very new dawn in the multifaceted economic relations between the two countries. The forum is supported by Ministry of Economy, UAE, and the Consulate General of India. It is basically designed with the agenda to engage and influence the people who matter the most when it comes to making the real decisions. And then third major thing which has happened in the month of August is the first ever Khalij Times Breakfast Connect. It was a celebration of UAE's year of 50th anniversary and India's 75th India's independence. In that, the UAE Minister for State of the Foreign Trade, Al Zayedi, announced that the non-oil trade between the two countries amounted to nearly 165 billion dirhams in 2021, which reflects a 60% growth compared to 2020 and 8% compared to 2019. So surely we have come a long way, we see, from the pre-COVID days to the pandemic era and then the post-pandemic. We are getting a huge boost in the economic growth between the two countries. Moreover, the UAE is also home to nearly 3.5 million Indians, representing about 25% of India's. And now, after the pandemic the world is getting to the pre-COVID days, the workers have gone back, and still we are now, the figures that we used to get, the remittances we used to get before, are coming back to normalcy. Now, given that the UAE is keen on transforming itself from the oil-dependent economy, the relations between India and UAE are not only dependent upon the oil, but it also converting itself from an oil-dependent economy to a knowledge-based economy. If you recently visit UAE, you would see that they are now thinking of artificial intelligence, they are thinking of artificial means of transport, wherein they will, everything they are basing their corporate things in a very robotic form. In the next 10 years, everything will be done there by robots. So they are converting themselves to a very tech savvy economy. So this gives a huge potential to India and the relationship between the India and UAE to expand in critical areas, which are science, technology, innovation domain. With India's strong science and technology base, including in STEM education, space, nuclear fields, the two countries have the potential to transform the nature and scale of their engagement. The Indian decision to establish the first ever foreign branch of IIT Delhi is also part of the SEPA agreement, like I told you, the comprehensive engagement policy of India and UAE. Apart from this, we can now see that the Middle East Quad, which involves India, Israel, UAE, and United States, is a case in point. Now, the difficulties with the traditional multilateralism is leading to a renewed focus on minilateralism. First of all, we used to talk about that how one country, as India, I would have good relations with multiple countries. Now, countries are looking at small associations, which we can call as minilateralism, forming quad groups, because then regional powers also have a huge impact in the outside world. The minilateralism appears to be the flavor of the season. If we see, when we talk about after the Indo-Pacific Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, or we talk about the Quad, which involves Australia, India, Japan, and United States, now this is the second Quad in making. The inaugural meeting between the foreign ministers of India, Israel, United Arab Emirates, and the United States is a very significant step and a very significant development. The cooperation need not be based on security and defense issues, but they also talk about their individual strengths, and they will come together and demonstrate these strengths because they will come out of their comfort zones. All these countries have their own capabilities, and together they will explore new avenues of cooperation in various areas. For example, engaging in critical and emerging technologies. So this is surely a very good thing to look forward to. Now, this quadrilateral that I talked about, which involves 4 countries, India, Israel, UAE, and United States, is significant for 4 reasons. First, it is a very clear recognition that Biden administration in United States of America is now actively involved in responding to China in multiple regions. The establishment of this quad in the Middle East reflects a recognition that China goes beyond the Indo-Pacific and has to be met in other regions too. Only one association, one quad group, which is Indo-Pacific, cannot deal with the Chinese challenge. But we have to form other groups. We have to form groupings of other regional powers so that we can meet this challenge. The second, the same imperative appears to be the direct driving India's involvement as well. When we talked about China's including, again and again, it has been breaking the line of actual control. Then India has joined this new Middle Eastern Quad because it is a recognition that New Delhi also understands that China's challenge has to be met not only to India's north and east, but also towards India's west, because the forming of China's string of pearls will also affect the West Asia. The third point to note is that both India and the US now recognize that they need each other to meet these China challenges. It is also a reflection of India's growing comfort in dealing with the United States and its trust in Washington, because we have to work together to fight the power. The fourth point to note is that these squads, both in Indo-Pacific and in Middle East, are a reflection that understanding the China challenge is not just a military, but it also involves a very broad political and economic aspects. Finally, when we talk about Israel and UAE, they are good partners for India and both for United States of America. India and US, as you all know, enjoy good bilateral relations with both Israel and UAE, which was a necessary facet for building a Middle Eastern squad. So all these 4 powers will be good enough to tackle the Chinese challenge. Then when we talk about the recently going things around the world, we see that we have seen a very good escalation in ties between India and UAE, with both the countries, the leaders, the head of states of both the countries coming together and discussing each other, forming bilateral agreements. And India and UAE relations is not just confined to socio-cultural relations, wherein we have our Indian diaspora located in UAE, but also on the political front. UAE has always been supportive of India. When India had a surgical strike, wherein India had a surgical strike, which was and in the killings wherein the terrorists were killed because those terrorists were involved in the Uri attack. UAE was the one who supported India and condemned the Uri attack conducted by Pakistan. So UAE has always, when we talk about the United Nations Security Council, UAE has always been a good brother in support, has come up in the international platform also, has supported India in all its ventures, in all its agreements. So I feel that the relationship between both the countries hold a strong, good potential, and their relationship is as much glorious about its glorious past, is as much important as its glorious past, as it holds a bright future. So I feel that we should learn more about Indo-UAE relations, because the relationship between the two countries hold huge potential. Thank you so much, sir. I think I have spoken enough. I would now put the stage forward for discussions and any doubts or any questions that the students might have or the participants might have.
Thank you, Dr. Anima, for I would say, covering the subject very well, covering all the aspects. And now I will open the house for question answer session. The students should come out with their questions. First, let them introduce themselves and put the questions. Come on, be quick.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hello.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Shorbani. I'm a postgraduate from St. Xavier's College, Kolkata. And I have mainly two questions. My first question is regard to the remittances that the Indian workers send. In the recent light, like in the newspapers, it has come out that Indian workers that went to UAE for work are losing out jobs because apparently they're hiring more people from Bangladesh, because actually they are, according to newspaper, they are working for UAE at a much lower rate. So not only just increasing, but there's also decrease in the workers that go there. And my second question is with regard to terrorism. As we know that the Islamic world together has already declared that they could not control terrorism. And also my question is regard, in fact, knowing that the Islamic world could not control terrorism, why is the Gulf country still supporting Pakistan in its endeavor that I'll try to reduce terrorism? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for the questions. I will respond to the questions one by one. Looking at the first question, sorry, your name, good name is?
Shorbani.
Okay, Shorbani. So looking at your first question, first of all, I would say that be it India, be it UAE, because of the COVID pandemic, every country has gone through recessions. So, and when we talk about the remittances that we get from the Indians located there, we see that most of the Indians that are settled there, I would say if the ratio, if for example, from the ratio that is there, if we see 40 to 50% will be involved in the labor class jobs, right? And few will be involved. There are few businessmen there. There are few people who will be employed in white collar jobs, but most of them are the working laborers there. So when we talk about the recession, because during the COVID pandemic, every construction activity was on a hold, the countries was facing through recession, gloom, a period of very dryness. So I feel that it was because of that every country had to go through that. And it is not that when we compare the two countries, that which country is getting more, which country citizens are getting more employment there, then the comparison will not hold good. Because when we talk about India's foreign policy and Bangladesh foreign policy, it is quite different. Indians, when the workers were there, Indian government wanted to help the Indian diaspora there, because they wanted the Indians to be back, so that they don't have to stay in the camps or get diseases and suffer at the hands of COVID pandemic. Wherein when we talk about Bangladesh, the people were there only, there was no such excavation, or there was no such there was no such plan wherein the Bangladesh people were called back to their country. So obviously the people, those who were there, they, by any means, when the COVID pandemic had hit, they did their job. And obviously the levels, when we compare the things, obviously Bangladesh people, when they are there, they would be more employed than the Indians. But now if we compare the ratio there, Indians are back in the flow and they're not that dissatisfied. The things are working towards the better. And when we talk about the second thing that you talked about, you must be knowing the recent Abraham Accords. You talked about the terrorism and why the Gulf never speaks for the terrorism. I don't support this idea. They have always strongly condemned any of the terrorist attacks. They have always believed that any country, state, religion, or any country's agenda cannot be frightening the people. When we talk about the Abraham Accords, when we see the statement, it was the first public normalization of the relation between the Arab country and the Israel, which was a huge, huge step, right? Because when we talk about these accords, the name says Abraham Accord, okay? It basically emphasizes on the shared origin of belief, which is among the Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. So all these religions are basically, all of which are Abrahamic religion, that are strictly, they espouse the monotheistic worship of God of Abraham. So there is nothing like that. And when we talk about the recently, there was a controversy also in which UAE's Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a statement wherein it condemned the controversial statements. The ministry also underscored the importance of the strengthening of the shared international responsibility, wherein we should share the values of tolerance, human coexistence, while preventing any such practices which discriminate from one religion to another, and also inflame the sentiment of followers of different religions. So I feel that UAE has always condemned any kind of so controversial statements and always stood for the coexistence, peaceful coexistence between different countries. Thank you.
Yes, next question.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
My name is Mohiuddin Chaudhary and I am graduate in political science from Jammu Millia and my question is, if we say Indo-Pacific Quad, that is specifically for China, to counter China like Quad and AUKUS, but if we see the Quad in West Asia, is it also related to counter Iran, and how it will affect the Iran and Indian relations?
Sorry, your last line wasn't clear. Can you be more clearer?
How it will affect the Iran and India's relation, because if we see that
I think, sir, there is some voice lag. I cannot hear the voice properly.
No, now let me make it clear. He wants to know that the impact of this I2U2 will impact India's relations with Iran. So the regional peace will be disturbed by this. I hope the question is clear now.
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes,
Dr.
sir, it's absolutely clear. I know that there are differences between UAE and Iran, but lately UAE has also realized that for the regional to be together to fight for the external power, it is very important that they should stop the proxy wars between each other, and they should maintain peaceful attributes and peaceful coexistence between the two countries, because without that the countries won't be able to flourish, because if you are good, you're strong regionally, then only you can combat the power across opposite to you. So the I can, obviously there were recent articles in the newspaper also wherein UAE and both Iran have understood that it is very important for both the countries to de-escalate the ties, because regional proxy won't work. It is very important when the both countries are with the regional proximity and they have good geographical proximity, they should maintain good ties with each other and try resolving the conflicts amongst each other. Thank you.
Yes, next question. Come on, be quick.
Yes. Good evening, ma'am. I'm Riya Sharma and I'm currently pursuing my master's in political science. Ma'am, one of the biggest concerns for UAE and also for Saudi Arabia is Turkey's quest for regional dominance in the region, and also Erdogan's wish to revive the Muslim Brotherhood in the region, where Turkey can emerge as a leader. Ma'am, this has been seen as an opportunity for India to engage with its extended neighborhood in the West. So, ma'am, I wanted to know what are the possibilities, or how can India extend help to the region with regard to balancing Turkey's ambition?
Thank you so much, Ria. Like I told you, the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement and also the Quad that they have formed. They have formed the Quad not just looking at because I brought in the Chinese aspect, because for India, the major threat is Chinese, not the Turkey. Obviously, Turkey has been employing their ISIS. They are giving huge training to the people there, they're indoctrinating the people there, and terrorism, that is the hub of terrorism when we talk about the ISIS terrorist organization. But these organizations have been formed so that the countries which are powerful like Israel, US, India, UAE, they can come together and fight the powers, because you know that when in a foreign policy in international relations, no country can survive on their own. There are alliances happening. When we talk about the alliances, so the major agenda is not tackling one power, but that's how alliances are happening, so that in between they will come up with the policies, they will come up with the schemes wherein they will address these concerns. So the recent Quad that was formed in 2021, the Quad, the Eastern Quad, which was also formed to tackle this threat. Thank you.
Next question. Come on, be quick.
I am an ex-UPSC aspirant and currently a working professional. So I wanted to ask you, how big a role can be of UAE in terms of maintaining relations between India and Pakistan, let's say vis-a-vis Kashmir issue. So how big a role can UAE perform?
See, whenever Kashmir has always been a bone of contention between India and Pakistan, and that has been going since 1947, and that is always a issue of debate. But UAE, in many times, it has clearly said, whenever Pakistan has talked about that Kashmir is in our region and about Pakistan occupied Kashmir also, UAE has openly, if you go back to the news archives, you can openly find out that UAE has boldly and openly accepted that Pakistan occupied Kashmir is India's right, and it should go to India, and Pakistan should stop in intruding into the India's territory and should maintain the idea of the values of sovereignty and international borders. So I don't think so that UAE can help in having prospering the relationship between India Pakistan, because Kashmir has always been a bone of contention, but UAE has always stood as a very strong brother and has been very clear on the lines whenever Pakistan has tried to spread misleading words about Kashmir and about India's illegal occupation of Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Thank you.
Come on. Any other questions? There should be many more questions. They are on the card. Yes, go on. So I think that Anima, the students had their queries and you have replied to them.
Thank you so much.
Now I join the student community. Now I become a student and ask for your opinion on certain issues relating to India-UAE relations.
Sure, sir.
One is, don't you think that UAE and other, Arab world countries, Middle East countries, they are very wise in their approach so far as the relations with other countries are concerned, foreign countries. They talk of religion, but at the same time, their economic interests also are uppermost in their mind.
True.
And I think with that end in view, UAE decided to invest, in Jammu and Kashmir. This was a, move initiated by India to counter Pakistan's, strategy to seek support of, Muslim countries and all that. So how do you look at it? And, the air flight from Jammu and Kashmir to UAE was also introduced, and Pakistan in the beginning was not willing to allow this overflight, through its territory and all that. But later on, Pakistan realized that it will not be the interest of the country to ban this flight. So, two-way objectives were fulfilled. One was we got the investment from UAE, and this is something which I said in the beginning. Economic interest comes first, religion comes second. And that's why they decided to have investment in it. And India also had a diplomatic objective behind this, just to ensure the support of Gulf countries and other Middle East countries for investment in India, because they like investment, they want investment, they have got funds, they are rich countries, and India thought of utilizing this opportunity to have investments in Jammu and Kashmir. That would have served, twin purposes, bringing prosperity to Jammu and Kashmir, and also to, counter Pakistan's move of propaganda in, that Islamic Council and all that. Now, I would also like to have your opinion about one thing more, about diaspora. There's been a lot of, complaint about diaspora, Indian diaspora in India. The number have gone down because of pandemic, quite a large number of them have returned and all this, but natural. Now the question is, can they go back? And there has been a little protest in these countries that why not the government provides opportunities to the local people, and they are prepared to work on lower wages. So instead of encouraging, the labor from foreign countries, paying them in foreign exchange and all that, so the government should do that. So this is one of the reasons that the number of Indian diaspora, particularly the skilled or unskilled labor, has gone down. And many Indian diplomats in their interviews have confessed that this has impacted India's economy also. We were getting foreign remittances, we are getting dollars, and it has upset the social and economic life in the southern states of India, like Kerala and all that. They all depended on to their remittances from UAE and other Gulf countries. So this is diaspora's problem. Third one is, you spoke about this Western Quad. That's I too, you too. I don't know how many quads are going to be there, and whose behest, and on whose I would not say instigation, but on whose behalf. US, they had this quad in Eastern Asia, but they were very shaky. They were not very reliable. Sometimes they were in, they were out, and people, I mean, countries like India or Australia or Japan, they were a little, hesitant to join such organization, because they were not sure of US approach. They thought that the US is not serious, just to fulfill its own foreign policy objectives. Sometimes they say, yes, we are in, sometimes they say we are out. And so far as this, what you call Western Quad is concerned, don't you think that it has come on the behest of US? How long the countries of a region should look to US? I mean, they are everywhere, and they are all for their own foreign policy objectives. So the problem is, India has readily agreed to it. India has readily agreed to the Eastern Quad and all that. Will that ensure any security for India against China? They are distant countries, and if there is anything on our borders, I mean, do you think that they will be of any help? Just like the US is helping Ukraine by supplying, arms, rockets, missiles. They are making money. Their arms manufacturing companies are reaping a harvest. So this has always been a part of US diplomacy. First, let there be a crisis. let there be a war, then we will supply the these weapons and all that. And US always did it in the Middle East also. These countries, they have oil. They use oil as a weapon in their diplomacy against the US and all that. They nationalize all that companies just to deprive any influence of US and all that. So, but on the US part, they said, all right, you can say that we are not giving oil to you, but we will create such situation that there is a conflict all the time in the arena. And then you will have to come for guns to us. And that will benefit US also. So these are very complex issues. I mean, all these regional groups, do you think they are going to create peace in the region, whether in the East Asia or in the West Asia? Hello? Dr. Anima, can you hear me?
Absolutely, I can hear you. So, yeah. Should I begin in answering the question, sir?
Yeah, just two issues. I mean, I think the most important one is this recently, formed Western Quad. Do you think it will ensure peace in the region? Don't you think it will impact our relations with Iran?
Okay, sir, I'll start answering the questions one by one. First of all, sir, your question was about the UAE's investment in Jammu and Kashmir recently in March. Yes, you're very right that a Gulf delegation visited J&K, and it was the first ever overseas investment that happened in the investment summit. And we can see that after the abrogation of Article 370, this is what J&K was looking for, and it will eventually benefit. It will be a mutual beneficial thing to both India and UAE, because such such investments bring out mutual benefits and in different sectors. Also, it will also generate a lot of employment for the people. It will create a lot of jobs in Kashmir. They have promised around 6 to 7 lakh investments once the investments are translated into projects. We can see that one project is related to steel, the other will start in next 5 months. So I feel that when the other country is visiting visiting India, and especially the state which is always in the line of contention, which is always in the international news, this will always be a good step for India, because it will give us international recognition. You have seen many a times Pakistan says that Kashmir is part of India. How can they say that when the boundaries are absolutely defined? So when international players come in, they have their role. So I feel that it gives authenticity to the international borders, and also gives recognition to the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and also thwarts and snubs the Pakistan's malified intentions towards the state. Second, the question that you had put forward was that due to the COVID pandemic, India has lost many jobs. Yes, Indians have lost many jobs in UAE. Absolutely true. If we look at the time in 2015, mid 2015-16, we could say that the Gulf nations were the easiest destination for people. They were interested in saving big in short tenure. Everyone used to feel that this is the next hotspot, and obviously we could see the Ministry of External Affairs numbers also, that people from Kerala were contributing huge. 50% of the total India's Gulf labor force was from Kerala. But when I feel that COVID pandemic has taught us and the world also a lot many things, that where people are now focusing on being in India, they are focusing that how they can be close to their family and then gain employment. It has changed. The pandemic has changed perspective of many people, wherein they used to feel endangered in their own homeland. Now they feel very comfortable spending time with their family. And I know that this situation will not be there for long, but this is how the world order changes. One pandemic has brought many differences in us as an individual personality also. If we can compare us pre-COVID days and now, we can see huge differences. It has learned, it has taught us many things. So I feel for the countries also, and for the Indian diaspora, not just in UAE and other countries, they have started feeling a huge sense of security in their own motherland, and also huge sense of insecurity in the foreign land. And answering your third question, which was regarding the how many quads will be formed, obviously, sir, you're absolutely right. The quad formation of quad is not the region, but as you know that in international arena, when we have friends around us, we feel secure. That's how Kotalle also talked about in his mandala theory, and about how the next friend is our enemy and the next friend is our friend. The neighbor is our friend. So when we form a grouping, obviously we cannot satisfy the interests of all the countries. When Iran had sought help from us, we've always helped Iran, and we've always stood up for a very peaceful coexisting world order. We have never spoken and never gone out of the way to make any other country upset about a thing. But when it talks about forming a grouping, and also wherein India's interests are involved, wherein we know that we need friends so that we can secure ourselves in the future threat or future any kind of attack from a foreign enemy, we would have to go for such groupings to secure us, I feel. When we talk about the Modi tenure, which was the first tenure the Modi government was running from 2014 to 19, everyone was criticizing Modi ji that why is he going on foreign visits, why is he always out of the country. He was going out to make friends. He was following Kautilya's Arthashastra, because if you will not have friends in the countries across you, no one will come to your rescue when they at the time of threat, at the time of any kind of adversity. And that thing happened in 2018 when before that, when there was Uri attack, they were the international countries who condemned the Uri attack that was conducted by Pakistan. And when India, through very legitimate means, had surgical strike on Pakistan, no country abroad criticized us. They were coming in solidarity and said that it was a good response to the Uri attack, which happened, which was wrong, that was conducted by the state of Pakistan. So I feel that such groupings obviously annoy some countries, but at the end, one has to also secure one's position in the international platform. Because in international affairs, there is no permanent friends and enemies. We just have permanent interests. So I feel so I think I have answered your question.
No, you are right to a great extent. But India's worry is about the US. I tell you, how long we will be put to the dictates of US, that you should do this, you should not do this, you should not import oil from Russia. Previously, they said don't import oil from Iran. And you know, Iran is the only country in the world which gave oil to India on a yearly credit basis. No other country has given it.
Sir, unfortunately, we are still living in that world order wherein we call United States of America the United States of America. So I think it will take some time, because India is developing at a very good pace, and I feel that the time is not far wherein we will be standing neck to neck United States of America and not be taking dictates of such superpowers, sir. Because we can see United Nations Security Council, United Nations, any platform, these are dominated by the 5 big powers. So I think that India will need to work a little more so that it reaches that level.